In this video, I'll walk you through what variables are and also what data types are, specifically the number data type. So, what are data types? Well, data types are literally just data of different types. And common types are strings with the keyword str. Strings store characters like words or any other characters written in single quotes or double quotes. Quotes are a really great sign to know that, oh yeah, this is a string. And it really doesn't matter which one you use. You can use a single quote or double quote. Next up, we've got integers with the keyword int. Integers are whole numbers like 1, 2, 3, 0, negative numbers as well, -2, -5, and many more. And note that integers should not be in quotes. Next up, we've got float with the keyword float. Floats are fractional numbers with a decimal point, like 2.0, 1.1, also negative, like -6.0, and many more. And they are also not written in quotes because they're numbers. Also, we've got boolean with the keyword bool. And it's got only two options, true or false. And this is typically used to indicate whether something is on or off, such as a switch. Also, we've got list, which contains a list of values. And also, we've got dictionary with the keyword dict. And it's got key and value pairs, but more about this later. One thing to note is that for numbers to be used in operations, numbers like integers or float, for them to be used in operations like addition, subtraction, and lots more calculation, they should not be in quotes, because if they're in quotes, then the computer system, then Python system are strings, and Python cannot do calculations with strings. The number data type. This has got three subcategories of data types. We've got integers, we've got float, and we've got complex. Integers is a whole number with unlimited length, like just a number, like 23, 24, just as long as it's a whole number. Also, we've got float. A float is a number containing decimals. It can also be positive or negative, like 23.0, 2.1. But one thing to note is that scientific numbers with an E indicating the power of 10 can also be used in float numbers. So you can have something like 35.1 E54 or any other type of number. Also, we've got complex. Although I didn't mention it before, but in complex numbers, a J is written as the imaginary part. So something like 5 minus 9j. And these complex numbers usually has a j, and the j represents the imaginary number, the imaginary parts, like the part that you don't know yet. Now, it's also good to know that you can convert from one type to another, and this is called casting. You can change from integer to string, from string to integer, from integer to float, from float to complex, and many more. And you would usually use the keyword. So for integer, it's int, then a bracket, parentheses. For float, it's float and parentheses. For complex, to convert to a complex number, it's complex, then a parentheses, then parentheses. And to convert to string, then it's string and parentheses. So if you have, let's say, the float number 1.0 inside the integer parentheses, and you print that out, then you get 1. Also, if you put a number, an integer like 7, inside the float parentheses, then you get 7.0 because that's a float. If you put something like complex and you put 1 inside the parentheses, then you get 1 plus 0j. And if you print out string and inside the parentheses you get 167, then you're going to get 167 but inside quotes. Now note that when the number becomes a string, then you cannot use that for operations or calculations anymore because it is a string in quotes. Now you can use the type function to get the data type of a value. So let's say I put type and I put whole number like 23 inside of it. Then when you print that out, it gives you int, which means integer. So that means that the data, the information, the 23 inside of it is an integer. And it's really important to know it's type and then parentheses and then you put whatever you want inside of it to know what the data type is. Now, so that it is not too complicated, we're going to continue in more detail with the strings, booleans, list, and many other types. We're going to continue with that next time. But for now, we will apply the data types that we now know to variables. So, what are variables? Variables are containers used for storing data values. I personally love to think of them as boxes where I can store data values or information. In Python, unlike other languages, there's actually no command for declaring a variable. For example, in JavaScript, you had to use like a var command to declare that this is a variable. But in Python, you don't have to do that. A variable is declared the moment that you assign a data to it. You can also change the value in the variable after declaring it by simply redeclaring the variable and changing the value. You can also specify the data type of a variable with casting. Note that variable names are case sensitive. So if you have something like a capital A equals to 12, you can have like a small a equals to another number like 34. Note that the first variable with a capital A is different to the second variable with a small a because variable names are case sensitive. You could change what is inside the small a equals 34. You could change what is inside it by just redeclaring it a equals something else. And at that point, a is no longer what was in it before. It is now the new thing that you give to it. We could have another variable like b. B equals to, remember, you can give your variable name any name that you want, but we'll talk about the rules for that later. Now, we could have another variable called b, and I could want an integer 2. And I could change a string with 2 in it, I could change it into an integer into 2 so that I can use it for calculations. Let's say you have int and you have brackets, and what you have inside the parentheses is 2 and then maybe a letter, 2a or 2b or something. At that point, it is going to give you an error because it cannot change a or b or anything else into an integer. That's something to note. Now, I could redeclare the variable b to put in something else. And this time, let's say I want a float 2. And at this point, it's going to give me 2.0 because it's a float. I could redeclare b again and change what is inside it. I could change it to just a string with 2 in it. All I just have to do is put string and put 2 inside parentheses. And that 2 inside parentheses is an integer, but with the string around it, I change it into a string. Now, like I said before, we're going to go through the rules for choosing your variable name. Now, variables can have short or quick names like X, Y, A, or B, like we've done before. But they can have more descriptive names like name for a name, number for number, total price for total price, age for age, and that actually makes them more understandable for you so that you know what is inside a variable, you know what it's for. But there are rules when choosing or using a variable name. A variable name cannot start with a number. It must start with a letter or the underscore character. A variable name cannot be any of the Python keywords because they're going to give you an error. They're going to get mixed up. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscore. So it can contain a capital A to Z, a small a to Z, 0 to 9, and an underscore. And note that, like we said before, a variable name is case sensitive. A small letter N, small letter U, small letter M, num, is different to a capital letter N and a small letter U and M. And that is also different to a capital letter NUM. Those are three different variables. Now on to legal or illegal variable names. Now, legal names include something like, let's say, total num, and which can be used for like something like total number or total number of something. Now, total num without a space in between is allowed, or total with an underscore before num is also allowed. Remember that in a variable, you can only have alphanumeric characters and an underscore, or and an underscore. You can also start with an underscore. You can put total, another underscore, and then num. That's also acceptable. You can also have total and then capital letter NUM, or capital letter N, and then the remaining UM is small letter. That's totally acceptable as well. You can also have capital letters, total, num, all through this capital. That's absolutely fine. And you can also have total num and then letter at the end. At the end. Now, here are some illegal variable names. We've got something like 3 total num. Starting with a number is not acceptable. Also, putting any other character like an at or like any other character is not allowed except for alphanumeric characters and underscore. And also no spaces are allowed. You cannot have space. You cannot have spaces in variable names. And also note that they are case sensitive. A capital letter total num is different from a small letter total num. Now, variable names with more than one word can be quite difficult to read. So here are some techniques that makes them easier to understand. First of all, the Pascal case. This is where each word starts with a capital letter. So like total num is, then T is capital, N is capital, and I is capital. Next up, you can have snake case. And here, each word is separated by an underscore. So total underscore num underscore is. Also, you can use the camel case, and this is where each word starts with a capital letter, except for the first one. So total or small letters, and then capital N, small um, and then capital I and small s. In Python, you can assign values to multiple variables in one line. You can have name1, name2, name3 as the names of the variables. And they have an equals to, and then you can put in the values for each of the variables in the same order that you've put the variables, to put the values in the same order. And make sure that you have the same number of values as variables in order to avoid an error. You can also assign a value to multiple variables in one line. So you can have name1, name2, name3, equals to James. So if you want name 1 to be James, name 2 to be James, name 3 to be James, you don't have to do like a 3-line variable thing about that. You can just have it all on one line. Now, there's something called unpacking a collection. If you have a list or tuple, well, there'll be more about this later, about lists and tuples later. But if you have a list or tuple, you can take out its values into variables. And this is called unpacking. So let's say I have a list called names, and then I've got John, James, Jude inside of them. I can have name 1 to be John, name 2 to be James, and name 3 to be Jude by just simply putting the variable names with commas in between them and putting equals to names, which is the name of the list. Now, the print function can be used to print out the value in a variable. Let's say I have a variable called name1 equals to John. If I want to print out John and show the user John, and when I say user, I mean the person seeing the results of your code. If I want to show them John, then I can just say print name1, which is the name of the variable, and it prints out what is inside name1, which is John. You can also output many variables using a comma. So you can have, let's say you have a variable called name1, name2, name3. So I can just put name1, comma, name2, comma, name3. And it prints the 3 of them at once. You can also output many variables using the plus operator, the addition operator. So you can have name1, name2, name3, and you just have plus between name1, name2, name3. But when you're using addition, you have to be careful because of the spaces, because that's what makes them readable. When you try to output multiple variables of different data types, like a number and a string, using the addition operator, there will be an error. Because when a number is with an operation, it is meant to do a calculation, not to concatenate with a string. So the best way to output or print multiple variables is to separate them with commas, which supports different data types. Also note that when you're using these commas, you can have like a string, then comma, a variable. So if I say, let's say I have in my variable, I have like the first one I have name1 equals to John. I can have print, then I put parentheses and I say his name is, and I have comma and I put the variable, which is John. That absolutely works. Variables that are created outside of a function, like the ones we have been creating, are called global variables. And global variables can be used both outside and inside of a function. More on functions later. Now, if you create a variable with the same name, doesn't have to be the same name actually, inside the function, then it is a local variable and can only be used inside the function. To make a variable that is declared inside the function global so that you can use it outside of a function, then you use the global keyword before the name of that variable. Now, the global keyword can be used to change the value of a global variable inside the function. So let's say I have a global variable that is outside the function. Let's say I have name equals to John. Then inside my function, I can have global name, and then I can change the name of that variable into something like Peter. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and see you next week with another video in the course.